All right, thank you everyone once again for joining us today. It's the Meadowhall Foundation's webinar, and today we'll be discussing finance and investment opportunities for educators. My name is Michelle Oyemade. Before we go on, I'd like to quickly give a brief profile on each of the people who will be speaking with us today. Please, I hope that you can all hear me. Okay, great. Thank you, Bimisola. I saw your nod. Thank you. All right, great. So I'll start with Michael Famaroti. He's a co-founder of Stairs and heads the intelligence team at the company. He's an experienced economist, having spent nearly 10 years studying African economies after completing an undergraduate and graduate degree in economics from the world-renowned London School of Economics. Michael is also an accomplished researcher, teacher, and editor with expertise in energy, finance, and technology. He has frequently featured on Brookings, Bloomberg, BBC, CNN, CNBC Africa, and more. Thank you, Michael, for joining us today. You are very welcome.
Thank you.
Next is Jude Dike. He's deeply rooted in the Nigerian tech ecosystem as a result of his consistent innovations and achievements of his startups. He has consistently been recognized every year in local and international tech press media publications for one achievement or the other since he began his career in tech 8 years ago. He got his first tech gig at an early age of 19. He graduated from the University of Lagos with a bachelor's degree. After graduation, he got tapped up by one of the companies he had worked for a while in school. And since then, it has been from one job to another. He acquired a degree in computer science from NIT in 2013, along with several other certifications, skills, and licenses. Jude has interned, worked, and also created with prestigious organizations across the globe. And as a software engineer and consultant, he has worked with companies like Owambe Deals, Fort All PLC, Digicom Solutions, Abstract 9 Designs, Microsoft, Sterling Bank, Conflow Inc. Incorporated, AfriCave, Telefinance, Get Equity, and so on. Jude is the CEO and co-founder of Get Equity, a company launched over a year ago. Hi, Jude, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. That was quite a mouthful.
It was indeed. But I mean, you're doing a lot, so I mean, we should let the world know about that, right? All right, next is Bimisola Alonge. She's an economist interested in macroeconomic and human capital development. With over 4 years of relevant experience in research and analysis, she currently works as a senior development analyst at Stairs Business. In her current role, she writes extensively about the education sector, particularly in Nigeria, analyzing various issues from funding to policy issues. She also engages in thought leadership conversations about the economy through different media. Her passion for education has led her to volunteer with NGOs like Slum to School Nigeria and LIS Academy. Hi, Bimisola, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Olusi Showumi. He's an accomplished chartered accountant with 12 years of stewarding accounting operations, managing corporate funds, driving financial due diligence through effective internal control management, and providing financial advisory for management decisions. He's adept at performing financial analysis and ensuring financial reports comply with generally accepted accounting practice as well as international financial reporting standards. He is the head of finance at Meadowhall Group. Hi, Mr. Olusi, you're welcome.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Ma.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you all for joining us today. We are so glad to have you join us today. So, I mean, I'd like us to start already. I'll start with Michael. In the simplest terms, what is finance? I hope you didn't chuckle, because it looked like you chuckled. I'll ask you.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't expecting that of why question. Please, I can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Hello? Okay. All right. So I think ultimately I'll just simplify it in terms of managing money for different entities. So if you're an individual, then personal finance is ultimately about budgeting. And then the finance is done by the finance team led by the CFO, and it's all about making sure that the company is in the optimal financial position to achieve its corporate and strategic goals, right? So that's essentially what I call finance. Again, you can apply to the government. It's all about making sure that the government is in a good fiscal position and so on.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so I'll go to the guy who is the chartered accountant amongst us, Mr. Olusi. What is finance, please? Very simple terms.
Me?
Mr. Olusi, can you hear me? Yes, I think we can hear you.
Okay, as the first speaker has spoke, finance is all about you getting fund, making use of the fund in line with the best practices. That is, activity that involve you getting fund from bank or debt or what we call leverage, credit, capital markets, investment, and ensuring they are in best use for an organization. Thank you. Hello? Hello? Hello?
I think her internet might have
She's
might
too
have gone
far.
off a bit.
Oh,
Maybe
okay,
she's
I think
back.
just hold on for her to get some. Okay.
Okay, did we hear him? Because I think I lost him, or was I the only person that lost him?
Yes, you were. I think
Oh,
you cut off for a little bit.
oh my God, Mr. Olusi, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, so I missed that. Oh my, I'm pained. Oh my. Okay, so I'm sure that everyone heard him, aside me. I have another personal session with him, Mr. Olusi. But for this webinar, what would we say is finance and education? What's the relationship between finance and education? Jude, I'll start with you.
So, I mean, with what the two previous speakers have said about finance, I think where education comes into this place, I basically tend to think of finance as wealth generation. It's pretty much how you generate money or how you make money, basically. And I think education in this part comes from from the knowledge or impacting knowledge on wealth generation, basically. It's saying, how do you teach somebody how to either generate wealth or how to preserve wealth, how to manage wealth, basically.
Great, thank you. Bimisola, I'd like to ask, I mean, from your profile, I see that you're really interested in Nigerian education. You do a lot of writing on Nigeria. Do you think that are there more poor teachers than rich teachers? Wow.
I don't have data on that.
No, but I mean, from experience, don't mind me, from experience.
I'll just speculate a bit. So, in Nigeria, I mean, if we look at the entire population, right, we have more people, like we have a large proportion of our population that are living below the poverty line. So that's one, let's just hold that. And then teachers, in terms of teachers, there are obviously more teachers at the foundational level, so K to 12 education, because data shows that as we go up the education ladder, the number of students in schools reduce. So I think in 2018, 27 million students were in primary school. This reduced to 6 million by secondary school, and then by uni it was already 4 million. So it was just 4 million. So that means there are more teachers at the lower end of the spectrum, or the foundational educational level. Now, because we have more, although we have more private schools than public, most of the private schools across the country are low cost K-12 schools. So what that means is they charge really low fees. So it's almost like public schools. And because obviously if majority of the students are attending low cost schools, the schools are earning a lot less.
Yeah,
They're
so they can't even pay.
So they probably don't pay their teachers a lot of money. So based on all that calculation and logic, I would say that most Nigerian teachers are probably not well paid, or they're probably more not well paid teachers than rich teachers.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. All right. So it means that since you don't have, okay, let's not use the word well paid, right? We don't have very, rich teachers like those in oil and fintech. So, and now with the inflation rate in Nigeria, we know that salaries are not going up, right? Transport fare has increased, food has increased, but salaries have not. And you still have to work, you still have to teach. I mean, the small money or the 20 naira and 10 naira that is coming in is better than having nothing. How can teachers effectively manage their resources now? So let's not talk about what streams of income they can go into yet. Let's talk about how they can currently manage what they have, right, as teachers. Michael, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think the first thing that we'll just say and put to the side is for a lot of people in Nigeria who think they have a budget or money management problem, they really don't. Cost of income is just right. So first of all, we need to help people in terms of earning potential long term. That's the only long-term solution. Else, people cannot money manage their way out of poverty or a low income status. But when you then take a look at, okay, what they can do now, I mean, the starting point is seeing what sort of belt tightening that can be done, right? Because like you rightly pointed out, costs are going up, income is still the same. So what's happening is that your disposable income is getting lower and lower, right? Your electricity used to be 10,000 naira a month. Now it's 25,000 a month because diesel price has gone up, right? That's an extra 15,000 that has to come from somewhere, right? So except you're making additional income, which you pointed out that they aren't, then there's a lot of belt tightening that is happening, right? And because of that, you see the statistics, right? So you go back to COVID, for example, and when COVID hits, the NBS ran a few surveys to understand the economic impact on households, and you found people saying things like, they dealt with COVID by cutting out 1 meal in a day, for example, right? So there's just a lot of that. Now, obviously, that has long-term implications in terms of health and nutrition and so on. But yeah, that's the situation that people are facing, and that's why we need to long-term increase people's earning potential.
Right. Thank you so much. Long-term increase people's earning potential, especially teachers. Mr. Olusi, you currently work in a school, right? And you've experienced teachers and you know exactly what they're going through, right? Since you're in the education space. What do you think they can do to manage what they currently have? I also know that, I mean, like Bimisola said, if you're working in if you have a low-cost school, right? Of course, the school fees are not a lot, so you can't even pay teachers enough, right? So Mr. Olusi, what do you think can be done? And I mean, from your own experience as the head of finance at the school currently.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Like the other speaker just mentioned, you can find out the earning powers have been eroded by the rising cost of energy and the inflation generally. And this is really, really tough on people. For electricity, for example, you're spending 10,000 naira, it's now 25,000 plus, and more as affect individuals, just hold the same challenges companies are facing. But in the middle of that, we just need to be critical and analyze our position. First of all, is to have I'll encourage that everyone has a budget. It's going to be very tough to have a budget line because they're going to be reviewing it almost every month or almost every day. When expenses that you're not expecting comes in, you have to review your position and say, oh, is it where I am? First of all, if you have a budget, that would be a guide. You can monitor how much you spend on energy, how much you spend on transportation, how much you spend on family taking, how much you spend on other external stuff if you are probably doing one or two on the other. Then from there, you'll be able to know what is even available if you want to invest in the first place. But as a matter of fact, you need to have that budget. That's the starting point. Once you have a budget, the next question is that you're not going to analyze your position. What do you have left after you have taken care of the major, expenses, your running expenses, and then make a decision on where you want to invest your money on. And we should also understand that investment is not magic. It's a gradual process. It's a marginal process. So when you put your money in an investment, recognized investment, you are going to expect it to grow marginally. And it's a multiplier effect. Once you start putting in ₦1 today, by tomorrow, it's going to get something on top. So you're going to be shy away from those investments that promise you 30% return, 40% return. No, you have to be very, very disciplined. Even if you have something to invest, ensure you're putting in funds like mutual fund investment, stock market. You have the savings account that's majorly for your fund that you are keeping aside. So if you are running a current account, everything goes in there. The bank will still charge you COT, expenses, SMS, birthday SMS, friend birthday SMS. So all those things comes in. So you need to have a savings account and majorly to pushing funds where you can now decide what to do with them. Then another thing I also find out among people is the fact that debt crisis. Ordinarily, in line with labor practices, whatever debt that's going to take in from somebody's salary should not be more than 1/3 of the net pay. But we find that people are actually, overtrading on this. So when you have a loan consumption that's even way higher than 1/3 of your salary, then you're going to take it back to almost the same cycle as soon as salary is paid or you get your earnings, your take-home pay. So I appeal to people majorly, yes, things are very tough, but the fact that loans are available at your doorstep, banks are coming around, come and take this, come and take that. We also have the loan shark companies that are around now. They are going to tell you, oh, we can give you 500,000 without documentation, we can give you 100,000. These are traps that people are following in daily, and it's really affecting, the style of living. Because if you are already in debt beyond 1/3 of your net pay, then it means that as soon as those money are coming in, you'll be back to the same level of, oh, no fund to take you for the rest of the month. So what I will appeal to people is that don't take loan if you don't need it for businesses or emergency need. Analyze your position, ensure whatever you are taking as loan consumption is not more than 1/3 of your earnings, so that the 2/3 you can now use it for your daily running, emergency funding, and ensure you have something in your savings account or investment accounts. Thank you. I think that should help.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Olusi. Thank you so much. And yes, I absolutely agree with you. But I think that, like Michael said, you can have a budget. You should have a budget, but I do not. Right now, if I was a teacher, I'm not sure that having a budget would help me now, because every day you go to the market, things keep increasing. You buy a carton of milk today for 16,000. You go back next week, it's 17,500. So you can never really, you can't tell, right? So your budget will keep shifting. And we just means that we have to invest. But I'm wondering in my mind, for teachers who don't even earn so much money now, what investment opportunities are there for them as teachers, right? As educators? But I'd like to start by asking, what is investment? Jude, what is investment? Simple terms.
So, I mean, I'd say pretty much investment is you putting your money inside of something, a business, usually a business, but putting your money inside of a business so that you can get profit later on. Now, the reason why I said usually a business is because you can put your money inside a person, right? Some people would say you invest in yourself. And what that just means is that you say that you're putting money inside, and this is why I'll say an entity. So an entity could be a business, it could be a person. You're putting your money inside an entity you're putting money inside an entity to grow that entity. And it's usually an entity that has a process on how it is going to grow, so that within a certain period of time in the future, you can make a profit on that money you put in. So the easy part, or the one that's easy explainable, is the company part. Let's say a company is doing agricultural produce. They're making 5,000, or they're making like 50,000 naira a month, right? Now they want to be able to increase their capacity to make 100,000 a month. They would need maybe 100,000 naira to be able to do that. If you give that person, or if you give that business 100,000 naira, so that they can be able to increase their capacity to do 100,000 in profit. Now, what that means is that after a certain point in time, that business can say, we'll be paying you a certain amount later until a certain point in the future where you can get maybe 150,000. Or the person is inviting you to come and own a part of the business that sometime later in life, you could sell for a lot more money. Then the one which is typically not common, which is investing in a person, is saying that, let's say I see you. I mean, it's usually common, but most people don't see it as an investment. It's saying, I see a person. Sometimes it's parents investing in their kids, but you say that you see a person, this person has potential, and you have an agreement with this person that I'm going to give you money to maybe go to school or to do some other things. And at a certain point in the future, the money I have given you so far, I can be able to recoup it. I can be able to get my money back from, maybe the money that you spend back on me, or the money that you give to me in cash, regardless.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you for explaining that. But in my mind, I'm just saying to myself that you're talking about investing in a person, investing. I mean, when I thought about that, I first thought about, how, I hope nobody's Igbo here. You know how Igbo guys, invest in a girl from secondary school to university, and she does her master. And I was thinking in my head, is that the kind of investment you're talking about? That's also investment, right?
I mean, to be honest, yeah, it's also a certain type of investment, because you're putting money in a person with the hopes that, and I mean, this is what typically used to happen in the old days, in the hopes that back then, for most Igbo men who are basically the operations people, sometimes their wives are usually the finance people. So you're investing money in this person in the hopes that we're going to get married, we're going to build a family business. Right?
Yeah, build a family until she swindles you and it leaves you to marry one Yoruba guy.
Well, you can also look at it from the angle of the sports. These days there's big money in sport. You could, see a potential athlete or a footballer, and this already happened in Europe. You see the like of Mbappe, the parents have invested, the like of Alan. So these are a kind of investment in people too.
True, I agree. I absolutely agree with you. But I'm looking short term now. What short-term investments are available for teachers, right? Short-term. We've spoken about long-term, investing in a business, buying some shares into a company. But are there short-term investments that teachers can engage in that will make, so I don't want to use the word quick funds, but that the funds will come in faster than investing in a long-term goal? Bimisola, please, can you answer that for us? Thank you.
I think first thing I would like to note is one big mistake people make with investments is thinking that it should be short term or it can be short term. More often than not, investment is not short term. And if it is short term, it's probably higher risk. And Yeah, so it's a bit tricky, but based on what everybody has said, another thing I like to note is it's quite difficult for people to invest, especially teachers. We've already established that getting people into inflation has basically eroded everybody's income, so it's just difficult for people to get money, and especially teachers, because they're already earning so little, and then with inflation it's difficult. So first thing they need to do is even get their money up, get their income, increase their income, and there's several ways they can do this, and you can even think of this like a sort of investment. So thankfully, thanks to COVID, the new normal is blended or hybrid education. So more often than not, we see in universities, especially universities, seems like K-12 and secondary schools are back to normal, but then there's a hybrid kind of learning where people can teach in person and also teach online. That's one way that people have started also, I guess, diversifying their income. All you need to do, I mean, not all you need to do, there's a lot more that needs to go into it, especially if you're teaching. It's slightly different from teaching. Teaching online is slightly different from teaching in person. But what people usually or typically could do is record the sessions that they have in class, and then I guess send it to other people, basically sell it. So offer their in-person learning experience online. So that's one way that people can make money. Another way is through like supplementary education. So supplementary education is basically anything but teaching, or anything but teaching in school or teaching formally. So we have like teacher trainings, so a teacher could train other teachers. We have like after school tutorials or out of school tutorials, which teachers typically already do. Like growing up, I always had a lesson teacher that had to come and teach me at some point in my life every single time. So right now, thankfully, the world allows us to sort of expand this opportunity across the world. So like you don't need to just teach to your students at home. All right, so as I was saying, there's also like teacher training. Another form of supplementary education is English language tutoring. So this might sound a bit technical. You don't need to, okay, I'm speaking to teachers, but you don't need to teach English to teach other people English. Like you don't need to be an English teacher to teach other people English, especially in countries where they don't speak English. English is obviously it's a universal language in many countries, but some countries don't speak English. So in those countries, English is in very high demand. So people just teach other people how to speak English. And then I think another one is test prep. Test prep is also it's so just basically teaching people with the hopes of helping them pass a certain type of exam or test that they're preparing towards. So these are just different ways that teachers that are already teaching can increase their income. We already spoke about inflation. I find it difficult to, like, it's almost unrealistic, if we're being very real, it's okay. It's almost unrealistic to ask a teacher who already cannot afford their basic needs to now take out of that to invest long term. We'll just be joking. So that's why I had to focus first on ensuring that they increase their income, especially if it's passive income. So things like the online classes, it's very passive. The person doesn't need to be there. So just record the class, put it online, and then just earn income from it. That is the kind of income that they can then set aside and invest. And it's very important, especially for teachers who don't work throughout the year. I mean, they're usually like holiday periods, and depending on where you work, some schools do not pay when teachers are not in session. So it's important for teachers sort of have passive income that they can then set aside for times when they're not earning enough income without having to stretch themselves too thin. So I guess after they've gotten that, a teacher can invest in just about anything anybody can invest in. There are different investment platforms now that people can be a part of. they're like online wealth platforms that you can use to invest in stocks. Obviously, that's like mid-risk. It depends on what kind of company you're investing in. People can come together, pool funds together, and start up a passive business. So basically, and that was another thing I was going to mention when people were talking about how to manage their finances now that the inflation is rising significantly. So pulling your funds together, if you like carpooling, for instance, if you know you live in the same area as someone, everybody should go to work together instead of everyone driving their own separate cars. Or if you know that there's something that you spend a lot on. People even do like markets, pull their resources together, buy things in bulk, because obviously buying in bulk is a lot cheaper. So these are the minor things that people can put into consideration when trying to reduce their cost. But like investment, anybody and a teacher can invest in just about anything that any individual can invest in. Put your money in stocks, bonds. The safest assets are usually like government assets, but I won't speak much about Nigerian government at the moment. But like putting your funds in like treasury bills, putting them in like government bonds, because you're sure that so you can put them even in fixed deposits, right? That banks provide. Put your money down 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, and then you get your returns afterwards. So once the teachers are able to earn passive income, they can then put them in these kinds of assets or these kinds of investments and earn returns.
Thank you, Bimisola. That was really good. Thank you so much. So, Michael, before I come to you, I'd like to quickly talk to Jude. Jude, I know that you're in the tech space, and I'm looking at teachers. A lot of them are not tech savvy, right? Yet. And so Bimisola spoke about having online classes, having pre-recorded sessions. In fact, I know a teacher currently who, apart from her day job, right, she gets home, she teaches two children who I think are in the UK or Canada, right? Sometimes there's time difference, but she ensures that she does that. And she was saying to me that she currently earns her salary, right? She makes her salary. So, for example, if her salary was 100,000 naira, that's what she makes, doing these lessons for these two children. I think twice or 3 times a week. But that's for somebody who is tech savvy, right? Who knows how these things are done. I mean, I've met teachers who don't know, not because they don't want to know, but I think they don't have the opportunity to. So, Jude, what can they do, right? These teachers, what can they do? How can they learn this so that they can make passive income?
Okay, so I think one of the differentials with tech, or one of the advantages of tech, is that it starts to make things a bit borderless, right? As opposed to, because like, for example, you said, this teacher is teaching kids in the UK, right? The only difference between what she's doing and what, typical private tutors do is that most private tutors would have to come to your house. And now, because she's teaching people who are in a place where their earning power is higher, she gets to charge them higher. Now, one of the things that I know a couple of people are trying to do, and they're even teaching services. There's one that I currently try to, I don't know if I should call it work with or fund, called KTC. And this is a lot more focused on teaching children how to code. But then they get teachers who, it's a mix of teachers who have gotten that knowledge of teaching, and then they try to come to them physically, or bring them into a space, and then take their, take their knowledge more online to kids who are able to have that, or kids who already have that, should I say, technical know-how. On what I feel is that the way I see more of this happening is it has to be a concerted effort of one, working with people like this. I mean, right now they're working with code because code is one of the fastest things, but it's even a situation where, let's say, teachers around maybe a certain place, teachers in Lagos or something. You filter those teachers, and you're able to get content from them, record those content, put it online, and those teachers get paid for doing that. Sometimes the way I tend to say this to people, especially tech founders or techie people, is that we need to be that bridge between the offline and the online. And what that means is that it's not about I know many people tend to see this about, trying to get many of these teachers online, right? Trying to get many of these teachers tech savvy. But
Yes.
sometimes it could be bringing the tech offline to go meet them. So in the sense of bringing tech offline with helping out with what you need is their domain knowledge, which is the content. It is helping out with that, setting up, taking it online, and maybe should I say a share split between that particular agency or company that's doing that and the teachers. What that tends to do is that you've given those teachers you're giving them an alternative source of income, doing things that they ordinarily would be doing. Because I think it's ULesson. I know ULesson started something like that. And right now the teachers earn, I think, give or take two times their normal salaries in teaching classrooms on the average. So I think the more these kind of platforms or the more these kind of groups or agencies spring up, the better it is for our teachers.
Thank you, Jude. Thank you so much. I mean, that's in my head. I'm just thinking that's a big opportunity. Just find teachers who have the knowledge, and get them online, and then get paid for it. That's a big opportunity. Wow. All right. Thank you so much, Michael. Anything else? What else can teachers do? I mean, I know that you were off for a bit, and we were talking about long-term investment and short-term investment. And Bimisola was saying to us that let's not deceive ourselves. Right now, you can't earn money short-term, right? What you can do is have income, passive income that you can invest in for the long term. So she just told us that, guys, no short-term investment, just make money. So what else do you agree? And then what else can teachers do for now to make money for now that they can invest for the future?
Yeah, I think generally on the point about short-term investments, I think if you are trying to make money or blow in the short term, market is probably not looking very nice for you. There are good, safe short-term investments that you can get in on, but you're not going to get particularly great returns, right? So anything that is offering or tempting you with, great returns now is probably extremely risky. It's also possibly worth mentioning now that even the act of staying away from clearly bad investments can be very helpful. I think in the past, Nigerians have been tempted by schemes that promise extremely high short-term returns, and they don't turn out to be, well, unsurprisingly, they don't turn out to be legit, right? So I think just for sort of even avoiding those is a great step. And like Bimi said, definitely this is time to invest for the long term when the markets are down. But if you're trying to make money, a lot of money right now, probably not a good idea, except you want to take on a lot of risk. I think generally in terms of what teachers can do, people have echoed most of the comments that I would have put forth. I think what I've also seen though in the last couple of years is a lot, well, not a lot more, but a few more international opportunities for teachers abroad. So visas specifically targeted at teachers abroad. And yeah, so people getting the opportunity to go for like a year's program in Singapore doing this teaching training program or something. So I think keeping an eye out for those can also be very helpful as well, because they help build your own capacity and make you more marketable, in your own local industry. So that's the other thing that I'll add.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. So I mean, I'll leave teachers for a bit, and I'll go to school owners. I mean, things are really expensive in the country. Inflation is really high, and there's the next session coming. And I know I've been hearing from some school owners that they're going to increase their school fees. How can they do this? How can they mark up their fees? I'm asking because they also don't want to look like they're not feeling the pulse of the economy. They don't know what parents are going through, but they need to mark up their fees because they need to. I mean, we're talking about paying teachers more, right? They can't do that if they don't mark up their fees, because that's where all the money comes from, school fees. So what advice do you have for such school owners? How can they mark up their fees for the next session? What things can they do? Is it something that they can offer, right? That will not make it look like they have no feelings and no emotions. What can they do as regards this? Mr. Lucia, I'll start with you first.
Okay, you mentioned it first. What's important is that why you trying to mark up your fee? You shouldn't price yourself out of business in trying to pass the burden to the end user. But critically, for you to cover up, it is established that there must be an increase in your tuition fee to be able to leverage and give the quality of what you promise parents. And we spoke about the fact that teacher needs to be paid. I mean, they're being underpaid currently. And infrastructure are decaying. You need to also meet up with that. Energy cost is on the eye. So you need to plan very well by looking at the key, drivers of your school. What is your student population? What is your capacity? What are your other competitors? What are they charging? So those key factors, you need to get your data on them before you can sit down and say, this is what I want to do. The question also, when last did you increase your fee? If you have been doing constantly every year, if you come again, just look like you're trying to pass the final body on parent. But if it's been a long time, maybe like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, COVID came, it affected, school couldn't increase and co, but some school has gone up to do that. So you just need to have all your data in place to ensure that you are not pricing yourself out of the market, and at the same time you're not pricing yourself low because your running cost is on the eye. I was in a session, someone asked that, are we not sure we are going to buy diesel for 1,500 per liter the way it's going? And it's possible before the end of the year. So if that is the case, and most schools are running on alternative power, which majorly on generator that uses diesel. So what are we going to do? So those are the factors you need to put in place. You are buying foreign item for use. Is there a local market for such facilities? So you need to put all your data together before you can decide that this is what I want to do. Then there's also need to engage the end user as well, so that they can, tag along with you, knowing fully well that for them to have the quality education in a peaceful and ambient environment is involved money. AC has to be on almost 7 or 8 hours a day when students are in. So it's for the school owner to plan to have those data first, then look at those areas. We can also have your cost reduced, like alternative costs of energy, like probably start investing in facility like inverter AC, in solar energy. They can be very expensive at the beginning, but they are likely to, reduce your cost towards the end. So it's a build up. You face it out. I mean, you're doing a face it. Maybe the next 6 months is what I'm going to do in another 6 months. So once you have your data, you can now determine the range within which you want to increase your tuition fee.
All right, thank you, Mr. Olusi. Thank you very much. Jude, I'd like to ask you, you launched Get Equity about a year ago. And so you've been in business, for about a year, and you've seen how things have been. From your experience, what would you advise school owners to do at this time? Increase school fees, not increase school fees, mark up, don't mark up. What would you advise school owners to do right now?
I'll say, look, one of the things with running a business is that you have to keep the lights on no matter what. You want to be able to keep your good teachers, because schools are also in search for really good teachers, so your teachers will get poached. You want to keep your good teachers, you have to be able to pay them well. Then you also want to be able to keep the lights on, like Mr. Olusi said, Mr. Olusi, sorry, said, it's, you spend a lot of money on diesel, you spend money on hiring, money on cleaning, etc. With the prices going crazy, you need to be able to balance the books. You need to be able to keep the lights on. So there's a couple of instances that I've seen now in the from the use case of a school owner. You don't have any choice but to increase school fees at this time. There's that. Then it's also saying that as an owner who cares about their employees, one of the first things you need to care about is your employees living, is making sure that one, they are able to earn a living wage. And then secondly, also create avenues where they could probably earn more. So this is where I would say school principals or school owners in themselves need to search out ways where their teachers could earn what they call the alternative salaries. I would, and this is just me honestly saying that if I was a business owner and I know that XYZ is not going to affect this teacher's, what they call it, this teacher's ability to teach, I would actually partner with some of these agencies who would take um, some of these lessons online. In fact, one of the beauties of something like this is the fact that the school itself could be online, where, let's say, for example, a school partners with a EU lesson. Basically, every course, every language every course or every subject that is offered by the school goes particularly online. And this now is vetted and verified by the school, meaning that a lot of teachers or a lot of parents who, especially during, like, for example, COVID period, a lot of parents who can see that they can get every benefit that they would have gotten from typically sending their child to school from an education standpoint, and they can get this particularly online from the school. There's also things like, I know some people do it in terms of like a cooperative type of system. I know that's something that has historically worked for, forgive my language here, middle and low income households. So a certain type of cooperative structure from places like schools help teachers and pretty much everyone actually to be able to afford certain things. I think just off the top of my head, those are things that I pretty much see.
All right, thank you so much. Michael, what can school owners do for the next session as regards tuition and other fees? Because I know right now schools will do there'll be sport fees, uniforms, books, and all of that. So what can they do?
Yeah, no, Jude touched on that quite well. I think what I'll add is the reminder that this is something that is dealt with on a case-by-case basis, right? So depending on the school, depending on their financial position, depending on their recent history with fees, and depending on a number of other factors as well, right? So I don't think there's necessarily a blanket suggestion for all schools. Second thing that I think that is important to highlight is just how communication can help, right? I always like to, well, in the past few months, I've been saying quite a lot that everybody's aware of the economic circumstances, right? Nobody's surprised, right? When you go to the market and they tell you the price of something has gone up, you aren't surprised and like, wow, no, you understand, okay, price of this has gone up, price of that has gone up. So everybody's aware of the economic circumstances that we're in. So I think a bit of dialogue between the school and parents and other stakeholders is important, right? It would be nice if the first time you are speaking to parents isn't, oh, we're about to increase school fees, right? It'd be nice if they are carried along beforehand, right? And you have conversations, right? So that when the time comes, nobody's surprised and people know that, okay, well, this is something that has been building up because of the circumstances that are happening. So I think that that's an important one in terms of doing business, yes, but I think also because of the kind of relationship that schools like to have or tend to have with parents. So I think that those are just two key things that I add. I think what you find is, and it's essentially what people have mentioned, but just in a more general way, the just importance of diversification. So whether it's within education, diversifying to other things, right? So you hear of some, of some private schools that are trying to be experts in AI or virtual reality or so on. But you also hear of like middle income private schools that are like teaching Mandarin, right? So there's opportunities to diversify long term. You can also do, as I think was Bimi that mentioned, education related services that isn't teaching, right? But in short term, that dialogue is just super important because chances are you may need to increase fees, right? It is possible that the financial situation just demands that, and it is a lot easier for all parties if that conversation has been had prior to that point.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Maybe I'd like to ask for teachers, where can they get the right education on investments? So there are many things out there. There's there was MMM. There's a lot of information out there for teachers, and a lot of them claim that they don't know where to get it, or rather, they're not sure what is right and what is wrong. So where can they get the right education, just so that they know what they're investing in?
I'll start by saying Google. Google really is my best friend. I Google every single thing, what time it is sometimes, well, in other countries. But then I also understand the place of like the wealth of, or the overwhelming volume of information that's out there that people would need to, I guess, sift through to pick what is good and what is not. I think first there are credible organizations that you would probably go to. So for instance, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, but they're organizations that sort of critique the different investments to begin with. Stairs is one. So definitely
it's okay to talk about stairs. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
You
Free
can
advertising.
But then for like specific, invest in this to get this, they're also so you would need to learn a lot. You need to read about the good and the bad and try and find out what it is. So sometimes when something looks too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true, and it's probably a huge scam. MMM is a good example. If the returns seem very high, if they are not fully critiquing what is going on, if it's too foreign for you as well, you don't want to dive into it. So if it's not the typical types of investments that people are used to over the years. So for instance, not everyone has the appetite for cryptocurrency. It's the volatility, the number of times that Bitcoin would rise to $50,000 and come back down to 30,000 and then go to 25. It's just too much for people who fully do not understand why it's happening, right? And people who do not have disposable income to just leave it and just watch the market go. I think it's also important to speak to finance professionals, look for investment people, look for finance people. Thanks to social media, you can send a LinkedIn message to people. They're literally at your fingertips. You can send a Twitter DM, Instagram DM. If you know that someone's day job is managing other people's finances, and to find these people, just look for finance institutions in Nigeria, search for them on LinkedIn, look for people that do like financial analysis or advisory or things like that, and then reach out to them. And I'm talking about, I'm giving all these granular examples because these are teachers that naturally, like, they're not looking to invest. I don't know if a teacher is looking to invest $1 billion or $100 million. So I mean, I don't know. So that's, I'm picking all these like granular things. So you're trying to invest a passive portion of your income, but you don't know where to start. You don't know. But it's important, before reaching out to people, it's important to do your own research. Like, I cannot just, it's a bit unfair to go and meet someone you've never spoken to before, or someone you don't really know, and tell them, oh, I want to start investing a portion of my salary. What do I do? Where do I go? Do your own primary research first. Do your own foundational research first. Have like options. Okay, I want to invest in this. I saw that this is this and this is this. Which do you advise that I do? That makes it easier for the person to give you advice. I think that those are like just reaching out to people, reading up on things, looking for risks, like for people who are just starting, especially like you mentioned that people don't know where to start. So if you're just starting, it's best to start with even reaching out to people in your bank, right? Find out what fixed deposit options banks have and how you can tap into it. That's a good place to start. Your account officer, how do I invest some money? Many banks also have investment arms. They have oh God, they have investment arms. I'll put that very loosely. I can't remember what the actual term is. So you can reach out to your bank and say, oh, does your bank offer investment services? If there's a subsidiary I can reach out to, I need to put my money somewhere, and then they would advise you. But very importantly, if you're starting out and you don't have a high appetite for risk, reach out to experts. The experts will be able to help you and guide you to the way to go. I was also going to mention something about, I was going to add to the questions that you had asked the previous speakers about what schools can do. Apart from, Michael had echoed some of the things that I was going to say about supplementary education, so teacher training, teaching people different things, AI, vocational education training as well can be something. But then some schools also just need to look inward. How can you make use of the asset that you have? You have these large classrooms, large halls, large stadium. Nobody does anything there. How can you turn it in for money? I think that that's something that Meadow Hall already does. So that's a way to make money. If you look around you, you have all this, you have a computer room, reach out to people who do like tech related trainings and rent your computer room to them to do their trainings. So it's just important for people to look inwards. And yeah, the supplementary education, I think Jude already mentioned this as well. You have your teachers, you already have a school full of teachers. You want to provide extra education, you can start providing after school lessons to people. You can start providing online education to people, but it's very important at that point for the school to also compensate the teachers for the extra time, for the extra efforts, because I remember speaking to someone who had tried to do like an online university, and he had said that that's why I said earlier, it's not the same thing. Teaching in person is very different from teaching online. So having people even sit down and record those sessions, they need to be compensated for that. But then the returns are bound. Like once you've incurred the initial cost of recording these lessons and once you put them online, the benefits that come, or the cost that you need to spend, the recurring cost or the marginal cost you need to spend for each thing to continue selling those lessons online is very little. It's almost negligible, but then the returns are very, very high. So I think that's just something. Another thing that schools have done in the past is sort of have like a blended learning system. And this is for schools that have like multiple campuses. So you can provide extra to people in a certain location and charge them more for it. So for instance, if you have a school you have one campus on the island and one on the mainland. On the mainland, they can do 8 to 2, close the school, everybody go home. While on the island, after school, they provide extra facilities, they provide extra tutoring, they provide extra benefits that people can sort of enjoy and pay more for that. So I guess one big thing I want to just sort of point out, one big theme across all different examples I've given is looking inwards, like not trying to do anything extra. You already have the assets, you have the space, you have the teachers. How can you use them to generate more income for your school? So that's what schools should really be thinking about. But that doesn't mean they should not increase school fees.
That's unfair. After all of these things, you will use their halls, computer rooms, all their facilities. They should still increase school fees, but they're making money from all of these things, aren't they?
We're in Nigeria. Inflation is a problem. Yes.
It is a problem. Let me quickly ask Mr. Olusi before I go to Michael. Mr. Olusi, you work in Meadow Hall right now, and I know that you guys don't only do education. What else do you do, right, to make income, no matter how little? Because I think that will also help some of the teachers and educators here, school owners here today. So that would just be, supporting what Bailey, Jude, and Michael have said. What other things does Meadow Hall do that inspire school owners here today?
Okay, thank you, Ma. I think Bimisola said everything. It's better to make use of your assets, the ideal asset that you have. We are into renters, use our turf, we use our volleyball, our basketball court, because once student leaves, those are going to be idle over the weekend. You have the swimming pool there. You have the classroom that you can use for CBT, computer-based tests, and give to tech people. So all assets must be fully, utilized to get returns that can support you based on, to augment the cost you are facing. Really, it's not easy because when you're doing such, you also have to be able to ensure that because it's tend to increase your maintenance costs at the end of the day. But at least it's going to help you to reduce costs in the long run when you have those passive income coming from the facility. So schools that have facilities that while they are doing so, it doesn't affect their focus as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Olusi. So, from what you have said, and I think the word you used was idle facilities, basketball courts. I know some people use kitchen, the turf, mini stadiums, anything that you think can make money. Rentals in general is something that school owners should look into. All right, so Michael, what investment opportunities are there for teachers? So we're talking about long-term, short-term, and I feel like it's a repetition, but I just got information now that some people are still wondering. Chibudo said to me that some people are still wondering, what can I do now? Right? They felt so. From the statement that was sent to me, the person just felt this is a lot of finance thing. I don't get it. What can I do now? Simple terms. What can I do now?
All right, well, so I guess first of all, it depends on what your objective is. Are you just trying to make some extra money? Are you trying to save up for long term? Are you just trying to get through these tough economic periods, right? So your objective will determine how much returns that you need to make and how much risk that you want to take on. Then once you figure that out, wherever your position may be, then honestly, you should probably, start with something as simple as possible, right? And I think the main alternatives are either investing in something simple like fixed income or putting your money in a piggy vest safe lock for 6 months if you can. So there are simple, fixed income safe investment possibilities like that. The alternative there would be picking up one of the things that have been said so far in terms of the additional work that you can add to your portfolio, right? So what can you be doing on the side? again, depending on the situation, if you have extra time to do lesson or to, teach something else, then that also helps you, right? So I would say that in terms of urgent now, in terms of trying to make money or get through this period, your main alternatives are, seeing if you can find any decent investment that is safe. Right now, it's not going to return you much, right? So better option will probably be trying to see what else that you can work on.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. Jude, I'd like to ask, so somebody just asked me now and said that, is there any hope for me in Nigeria? I mean, okay, I think the person is trying to say, I'm a teacher right now, but I'm looking to leave the country because I don't think that there's any hope for me here. Jude, what would you say to this person?
I would say, look, to be honest, hedge your options. If you are looking to leave the country, do your research, find out what countries align with what you currently know. Because let's say, for example, there's teaching in the US, there's teaching in Canada, etc. But I think you have to get some certain certifications in some of these places. Do your research, find out what the process is. If you want to leave the country, I would definitely not dissuade you in any way. But make sure you do your research first. Make sure you know which countries best align with the type of, should I say, knowledge that you currently have, and then go for it. I mean, pretty much that's it. Just go for it, try it out. If it doesn't work, you can always come back.
Thank you. Bimisola, you had a sorry face when I asked that question. You look like, oh my God, no, not again. Why? And what would you say to this person? I mean, from your experience with education right now. Did I put you on the spot?
Yes, you did. If
I'm
there's
sorry.
an opportunity for you to go, I think you should go. But obviously, that means if the person has found a good opportunity outside of Nigeria, and on a personal level, I'm not talking on behalf of someone who's passionate about the education system in Nigeria. On a personal level, if there's an opportunity for you to leave, please leave. And try and send money back home to your family. They'll need it. But at the same time, education in Nigeria it still has a lot of potential. It still has a huge potential, and in different aspects as well. So from technical education to even the non-core education services. So whether it's providing a platform for learning, whether it's teaching in like non-formal ways, or like supplementary education that we've spoken about extensively already. So there's a lot of opportunity that there are many opportunities that people can take advantage of if only they just look for where the gaps are and look for people looking to fill in those gaps. So I think that while the situation is very, very terrible for everyone, I feel like every sector is feeling the heat. Like there's no one, like, I mean, even tech today is starting to feel the heat thanks to the global inflation situation. So, I mean, everyone is feeling the impact of Nigeria's inflation and just terrible and just the higher cost of doing business in Nigeria. So I don't think that but then I feel like there's still opportunities. There's still ways that we've spoken about today that people can still earn significantly. You spoke about someone who teaches people in Canada and earns her salary. I'm pretty sure that the reason why someone is asking, like, and one thing that we need to take advantage of, or we need to note, is that labor in Nigeria is relatively cheap compared to other parts of the world, or many parts of the world, maybe not others. So you are already at an advantage in terms of like negotiation, but that does not mean that people should allow just the should price themselves, or not price themselves out of business, but that doesn't mean that you should underprice yourself, right? So many people, like, if you take your 100,000 naira teacher salary and sort of use to negotiate for a remote learning opportunity abroad, you will probably be charging them next to nothing compared to what they're paying other people. So it's important to even research on, and that's the thing. The person might not need to leave. You might not need to leave before you earn more. You can stay in Nigeria thanks to technology and start to look for opportunities that can allow you. I mean, the Nigerian dream, as we'll say upstairs, is earning dollars and living in Nigeria. But like, I mean, now not so much, because Nigeria is such a tough place to be in. But then at the same time, a lot of migrating is not an easy decision to make. Like, people are leaving family, people are leaving their status quo, and they're just like normalcy that they're used to, and going to like an uncertain place, right? So without making such a drastic decision, there are opportunities that you can take advantage of today while remaining in Nigeria. Research on these opportunities, look for even the training opportunity that Michael spoke about earlier. You don't need to go forever. Go for a year, gain significant experience, and come back, and then live like a king, because you're taking advantage of those opportunities that you've learned about. So I don't think. So on the one hand, if there's an opportunity waiting for you today, pack your bags and leave. But then also, you don't need to leave to improve your earning potential.
Thank you, Bimisola. Thank you so much. You don't need to leave to improve your earning potential, but if there's an opportunity, pack your bags, go, and send your family members money. Because Nigeria is tough. I know that. But we are gradually closing this session. But Michael, I'd like to ask, do you think that we can, with our current education, right? Do you think that it can be, okay, let me not use the word current, because there's a lot of work to be done with the education sector in Nigeria. But do you think that it can be one of our biggest exports in the hopefully nearest future?
Sorry, can you clarify the question? Our education sector?
Education,
like education. Yeah.
Yes, people come here, or I mean, we are so good that we can sell our services outside the country. Is there a possibility? Somebody asked that question. I think people are looking for hope today. So I think that's why they're asking this question.
Sorry, I'm not normally bring out hope, but nonetheless, I think definitely it's definitely possible for you to start exporting your education services. I think realistically for Nigeria, we're a long way away from doing that at a sort of massive scale, right? I think you need to change the curriculum. There's so much that needs to be changed for Nigeria to become an attractive education destination at any level. I think what you'll find happening over the next few decades, especially, is Nigeria maybe getting niches in certain areas in education, and then other Africans perhaps coming here because it is a Nigerian private school here that has access to some VR, some virtual reality device that people need to use in school, and there's only one in Nigeria, so some foreigners come here, so things like that. But in terms of us exporting education en masse, a lot of fundamental changes need to be made, but like we have said, it's very possible.
All right, thank you so much. Jude, I'd like to ask, you spoke about agencies that teachers can partner with. So I'm big on partnerships. I don't think that you should do anything on your own, to be honest. It's easier and I think more affordable. But are there agencies that teachers can look into partnering with, to make passive income? I know you mentioned KTC, I think, but are there other agencies that can help with this?
So yes, I think they are. I know they are, even though I might not know them right now. I remember back when I I was in secondary school, I used to have this, there used to be this agency that supplied tutors to kids that supplied tutors for kids who wanted to learn. I mean, this one wasn't online, it was offline. Tutors would come to your house and then they were paid daily. I think in general, for let's say an hour or two, they were being paid, for many of those teachers, even more than the salaries that they would make teaching full time. So I know that there are agencies that do this, and I mean, this was all the way back in 2010, 2009-ish. So I know that there still are these agencies. I'm not in the education sector, so I can't really say with certainty that XYZ are the places to meet, but I know that they exist.
All right, thank you. So Bimisola, do you know of any agencies that teachers can look into partnering with?
By agencies, what exactly do you mean?
So I mean, I know there are agencies like, I know there's ULesson. I don't know if I should call them an agency or an organization. So I know there's ULesson. I know there's a private one, I can't remember. That's when I was talking about my friend teacher who teaches some students in the UK and Canada. But are there other companies like that teachers can look into and research on and find out about them? Do you know of any?
Yeah, there's one called Prep Class, tutor.ng, Educoya. Yeah, so those are test preparation companies. So test preparation companies that just basically they teach people online, help them to prepare for exams and things like that, and they just those are the only three I can, and ULesson, like Jude mentioned, those are the only four that come to mind right now.
Okay, great, thank you. Michael, do you know of any? Mr. Olusi, do you know of any?
No, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with any of these.
Okay. But I know Bimisola has mentioned NG, Prep Class. Did you say Educoya?
Yes, Educoya, it's a startup. I don't know if they've started accepting teachers, but like they just launched recently.
Okay, there's ULesson, and I know there's also Tutoria. Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to come to the end of this session. I'd like to have your last words, please. I'll start with Jude.
I think
Did you just chuckle?
Yes, I did.
No problem.
I think in many instances, one of the things that we, as even people in tech or people who are stakeholders, basically in the growth and development of the Nigerian industry or the Nigerian sector, need to come up with even more ways where, like, for example, in the tech part of things, with being able to take our teachers online or coming to meet with our, bringing online to where our teachers are. And in, let's say, the funding of schools, credits, I think there are many instances that we can start to look at in the sense of enhancing the educational system. But then the most important of them all is also who you vote in, to legislature, to executive, because those are the people who make the decisions that shape these sectors for the long term, for both the short and the long term, actually. So I would say also keep in mind who you vote. It's not just the president that matters, our entire legislature matters as well. These are the people who are drafting laws and who are passing bills on a lot of things that concern us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Drew. Thank you so much. Mr. Olusi, last words, please, for our teachers and school owners. No, I don't think he's here anymore. I think we lost him. Bimisola, last words, please.
Nigeria is tough right now. Everyone is aware of that. But there's still opportunities for teachers, still opportunities for students, for schools rather. All they have to do is look within, do their research, try to increase their earning. Just increase your money first for teachers, try to earn more with what you already have, what you're already doing without stretching yourself too thin. And yeah, you'd survive. We would all survive.
Yes, we will. We absolutely will. Michael, last words, please. And you need to give us some hope.
Yes, very, very dramatic from Bimi. Hopefully we all survive. I think, no, the main thing that I'll just echo is what I said at the start. When it comes to personal finances, in law, there's a lot of emphasis on budgeting, which is, very, very, very important. But I think what people need to be thinking about long term in Nigeria, because yes, this is a tough period and things will get better, but Nigeria's long-term trajectory, doesn't, seem like anything's going to fundamentally change. So you just want to make sure that you're investing in yourself and investing in your long-term earning potential, whether that's in Nigeria or abroad, that's up to you. But yeah, just make sure you're investing in yourself. I think somebody mentioned compounding earlier. Eventually, it does pay off, and that's the only way to escape any, economic situation that you're in.
Great, thank you, Michael. Olusi, I think you're back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Great. Okay, so I was saying last words, please, for our teachers and school owners.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Like you have already mentioned, inflation is rising, the cost of things are going up. So just to be able to find ingenious way of doing things by trying to reduce our costs, we're looking at our overhead, our facility management, that's for school owners, your facility management, your application cost, you have to just review them. Is there any line that you can reduce your cost? Are you having applications that are doing the same thing that you just subscribe to them, but they're almost doing similar functions? So you may want to look into that. Then staff welfare is also priority, as we have mentioned there. We need to motivate our staff. We need to encourage them, do things that will make them stay and be more productive and increase their capacity, as well as ensure they also engage in personal training and development, which is very key to their productivities. And for us individuals, teachers, we need to be very careful with our debt consumption. I mentioned that earlier. So we have cooperative, we have loans, just ensure whatever consumption you are taking is not more than 1/3 of your net earnings so that you don't fall into debt trap. While all the passive income I've mentioned about that you can take advantage of, as soon as those income from those lines are coming in, ensure that they are also being set aside for investment so that at least you have a bucket you are building up to invest in the long run. We also need to also look at our running costs at home too. If you have a washing machine, how best can you use of? You have a pumping machine. So just critically look into our costs, because the rising price is not stopping now. Coupled with the war we are having between Russia and Ukraine, is really making things tough everywhere. So we need to be very careful. And those that want to relocate, it's important that you measure, because like you're going to start all over again. But in the long run, we know it pays off, but you have to be very, very careful and plan it before you take those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to quickly call Chibuzo to round up the session. Chibuzo, Chibi.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank our panelists, Michael, Bimisola, Jude, Mr. Lucia. I want to thank every single one of you for being a part of this and helping to educate educators out there, because things in Nigeria are changing and people need a different source of income, to help themselves. Thank you, Michelle, for always being ready to moderate our webinars. And thank you to our participants who showed up today to listen to this insightful webinar. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. The next webinar will be next month, the last Saturday of the month. We'll be discussing special needs. Thank you so much for coming to this webinar and attending. There's a survey form in the chat section. So please fill it. We would like to hear what you think about this webinar and other topics we can discuss going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Have
you
an
very much.
amazing day ahead. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
guys.
everyone. See you some other time. Bye.
Bye.